Hello, everybody. I'd like to introduce you to Michael Ostroumov from FLOX. Thanks for joining us today, Michael.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. So please tell us a bit about your business and what it does and where it fits in the supply chain, please.
Well, my business is we are a software development company. So the company is called Value Chain Lab, but the product is called FLOX, and this is our main and flagship product that we currently put on the market, and it's a logistics services marketplace, and we call it also an orchestration platform. So where the buyers and sellers of logistics services can find each other, connect, contract, and then transact through the platform all the way through instructions for like shipments and inventory visibility, all the way to the invoice payments for logistics services.
Okay, thank you. And for a user, would it be a bit like a marketplace?
Well, I mean, it is a marketplace, but unlike kind of traditional marketplaces like, I don't know, Airbnb, for example, where people just simply find, or there are some various kind of matchmaking platform where people just find connections and then offline they will transact and interact. We are bringing all of that functionality into the platform. So once a shipper or a brand, for example, e-retail, found a potential service provider where they can store the products, then they not just contract, but actually, instead of using emails and spreadsheets, they exchange instructions through the system. So they will have the visibility of the platform. It's connected via API to the upstream kind of selling platforms like Amazon or Shopify, as well as they could be connected to downstream platforms of the of logistics service providers to their WMS systems and so forth. That they don't have to, but they can, and that gives both parties a full toolkit with which they can see and control of what's going on within their supply chain operations or logistics operations. Because very often, especially at the SME end of the business, companies tend to be slightly underinvested in various IT infrastructures, and they live off Excel spreadsheets. Yes, they can get a lot of analytics from Shopify, but if they trade on Shopify and Amazon, for example, they have to stitch the whole thing together in order to have internal kind of corporate reports and so forth, or use it for any kind of forecasting and so forth. With us, it's all in one place. It's all in one platform. It is kind of the single point of truth, so to speak, for the businesses and for logistics operations, and it is at a low level of detail for that as well. I mean, what I mean is we are tracking and allowing users to manage information at an individual product barcode SKU level of detail. So unlike some, again, traditional freight exchanges, for example, where a shipper can buy capacity at the carrier, but they will just post the load saying, well, I have 20 pallets of, I don't know, 15 tons, and that's it, and I need it to be delivered from point A to B. But the carrier might not know exactly what's in that shipment. I mean, they will have the criteria, whether it's ambient, whether it's a temperature control or hazardous or something, but other than that, that's it. So when we have that information at the product level of detail, so we have the platform retains the client's master data or product master data and the whole hierarchy. The carrier can be told what's the best way to load the vehicle, for example. That's how we can enable kind of co-shipment or co-loading or multi-stop routes, where we know what can get double stacked, for example, what cannot get double stacked, which products can go with which other products. So with the main ambition is to increase utilization of existing assets. We have far too many empty trucks on the roads. We have far too many empty warehouses, and there's lots of businesses that are looking for these kind of synergies that we're enabling people to have.
That's excellent, and we'll come over to that when we talk about the green transition, but it feeds nicely into that. So, and thanks for going through that, because it helps explain what you do. And I'd imagine for an SME, once they're used to using your services, because you can connect them with a lot of different suppliers, it makes it seamless, really, and painless, which is what every company wants, really. Okay.
Indeed.
I always ask everyone the same question. What brought you into the lovely logistics sector?
Accident. or the place of birth. I mean, I've before doing my business studies here in the UK, sort of 25 years ago, I'm trained engineer. So I studied quantum physics. So I'm good with numbers. And then what happened when I joined management consulting world? There was a project for BP lubricants that needed to build a strategy for their logistics network and expansion, because they were growing for like 50% year on year, which is massive, between 30 to 50. And they needed to have a kind of a strategy logistics model that allowed them to see how they're going to expand their warehousing network across the region that will be keeping up with the growth in volume. And BP lubricants, they have anything from industrial oils and lubricants all the way to retail that's sold at the petrol stations. And I'm good with numbers. So I was pulled into projects, and the project was located in Russia, hence the birth. So they said, my partner said, the partner said to the business, he said, well, you need to be Russian within the reason, and speak the language. So which I fitted, and I was good with numbers. So I built a model. It was actually quite a sophisticated piece of kit with plugins into Excel and so forth. So it was a tool, not just simply a spreadsheet, but it was a tool which I know for a fact that the company has used for about 5 years afterwards, because it had all the different triggers. So the volume does this, then this, you open a warehouse there, and that's how your logistics costs will change. That's how the flows will change, and so forth. So that was quite a successful project. And then after that, because I had some of the experience, I was put on another project, and I was shown to a client to have expertise in this, and they liked us, and we won the project. So it's like one thing led to another. I became an internal expert in logistics and the go-to guy, as I was progressing through the ranks and the client engagement. So I did a lot of interesting work. I worked with Cadbury when it was Cadbury at the time, as a standalone, and then it was a merger with Kraft, which became Mondelez these days. I helped with Kellogg's and Pringles acquisition of Kellogg's from out of P&G. I did a lot of work in consumer goods, on the advisory side, and a consumer goods, supply chain management, restructuring, sourcing, network modeling, anything you can think of.
Thank you. And interesting, you mentioned the word accident, and pretty much everyone I've done a podcast with has said exactly the same, including me, by the way. It was totally accidental. I agree. So please tell us about, your business sector and how you see it developing in the next few years.
Well, what I think of a business sector, so yes, we call it logistics, overall logistics, supply chain, but there are two tiers the way that I see it. So the one is the tier one, and that's the main tier, that's physically does the distribution of movements of goods, the storage of goods, the handlings of goods. And there is a second tier, which would be a logistics management, whether it's me being a consultant or consulting services, or software houses, they do WMS systems or ERP systems, or demand forecasting systems, and for example, marketplaces and orchestration platforms. So that particular sector, I think, is enjoying a lot of growth these days. Spreadsheets are still, as we talked about, are still one of the most popular tools across the industry. But as technologies get more accessible, as the processing power and the sophistication of the models becomes more accessible and cheaper, more and more businesses beginning to use it. The bigger companies, like the big brands, I don't know, P&Gs and Coca-Colas of this world, they have enough capital to invest into highly sophisticated organizations and the system set up and invite consultants. The SMEs, the smaller to medium businesses, they don't have it, but there's a lot of, especially with the evolution of the cloud and the cloud computing software, various SaaS models and so forth. There's quite a lot of technology that comes into play, and the younger generations, especially, they are more accepting of the businesses being done in the cloud-based software or the cloud-based setup. They're more used to managing things through their mobile phones or tablets and so forth. So that technology is getting more and more. And AI, I think, is it's the latest kicker for the business, which introduce yet another layer of advancements and sophistication that can become quite easily accessible these days. And it will be more and more. I mean, we can talk about the killer application. I would say there is no killer application, so to speak, as it was in the kind of in the parlance of the dot-com boom. But there's quite a lot of, I mean, for AI, but there's quite a lot of progress, and we are trying to be part of that movement as well, sort of introducing the AI into the corporate setup of how the businesses are run. So I think there's definitely, and reports, I've seen reports, the industry is actually growing massively at 6, 7, 8, and some reports are saying to 12% per annum.
Great. Okay. And further on to that, what do you see as the biggest opportunities and threats to the sector? That might be, economics, etc., maybe outside your control. What do you see as the biggest opportunities and threats?
Well, the threats or the challenges is, well, at this point in time, I think we are in a 2025. I mean, it started a bit earlier. It's quite a challenging market conditions overall. We have all of those sort of tariff conversations and the overall kind of decline of the economies and inflation that we've had since COVID, and so on and so forth. And it's quite a difficult macroeconomic environment that unfortunately slowed down the demand for products. So there's fewer products are getting moved. And logistics businesses are suffering, unfortunately. The logistics industry is working on very, very thin margins, as you know, and any slight drop in volume makes life very, very tough. I've seen a few reports where, unfortunately, the bankruptcy rates over the past couple of years are going up to the kind of historical highs, and that's the kind of the macro environment is a big challenge. I think the opportunity there is yes, quite a lot of businesses are kind of a firefighting or in a survival mode, but the opportunity is if visionaries within the business have enough space mentally to kind of step back a little bit and look at the picture a little bit more holistically, a little bit more from kind of the day-to-day minutiae firefighting. We talked about the technology, so there are technological and other opportunities, collaborations and so forth that can allow businesses to improve their both profitability, operation, service, ability to provide service. I've seen a very nice article the other day where a person was arguing that essentially the traditional storage and traditional transport services, it's a vanilla service, it's a commodity service. That's not what would make a buyer choose between one and the other company. It's all of the auxiliary services that are being provided, either the physical service or the information flow that is attached to these services, that would differentiate the winners from the laggards, unfortunately. And I think that's the opportunity, is kind of embracing technologies, the embracing new ways of working, the embracing new capabilities that are being or could be offered. I mean, 3D printing, we can't talk at length about that. That also offers, not just in manufacturing, but in supply chain in particular, quite a lot of growth opportunities. So I think we will see quite a significant reshuffling of the sector that has been fairly rigid over the past 20, 30 years. I think 10 years from now, it will look very different. I mean, autonomous vehicles, hopefully the legislation is going to keep up, but that technology can provide yet another kind of direction for the industry to reshape itself.
Thank you. You're right. And I ask this question of everyone as well. What are people in your sector not talking about that perhaps they should be?
Interesting. Yeah, it kind of sets me back a little bit. The thing is, well, everybody talks about, I'll answer that question a bit differently. The people are talking about pretty much everything that they need to be talking about, but not many people are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So many people talking the talks, but they're not walking the walks. I've had this comment recently, for example, about AI. People are saying, okay, well, we are embracing AI, but when you dig deeper, it's like I'm using ChatGPT for my emails. Well, wonderful. Or I'm using Grok for some research. Okay, well, yeah, but that's not embracing ChatGPT, is it? Because what is it that you're including in your workflows, into analytics platforms, into there are lots of companies that are trying to put it into their systems. But then I think that the main challenge is how companies are actually using it, whether they work processes and the decision-making processes internally leverage the AI capabilities, or it's an ad hoc things that are used by enthusiasts. And I think that is something that many are not doing. Collaboration is actually another one. This is one of the kind of the central point of what FLOX is doing, is to promote intercompany collaboration. We can talk about, there's a vertical collaboration within a sector. So when a supplier collaborates with their tier suppliers and the downstream with their buyers, but the horizontal collaboration is where could be a competitors, but loaded up on the same truck that is delivered to a retail DC. Companies are not competing inside a truck; they're competing on shelf. And I think it's a bit of a hubris to think that one mega global corporation supply chain is for some reason is better than another mega global supply chain corporation supply chain. We're all fishing in the same pool of knowledge, technology, capabilities, and so forth. So the differentiation between P&G and Unilever from a supply chain excellence is minuscule, if non-existent. But they never get in the same truck, just because they are competing so vehemently in the market. And I think the collaboration unlocks tremendous potential for further benefits. It's capturing savings and reduction of we're getting to the green and sustainability points. But even just from a physical point of view, I mean, there were researchers, multiple researchers, that are saying that the trucks are 60% to 40%, 40% empty, 60% utilized on average. The backhauls are not available, or businesses are not ordering full truckloads, and then it's very hard for a single logistics player, even if they're massive like DHL, for example. They don't have entirety of the market at their disposal to provide the complete and maximum utilized network, not a single vehicle, but a network. That's why we have quite a lot of that operational waste. And I am this is one thing that I took out of consulting, is that I don't like waste. I hate it. And when the people are losing capacity, productivity, resources, time, money that could be eliminated, they should. And sometimes they can't, because it requires some change management, but sometimes it's just the simple toolkits and simple fixes. But it's doing, it's not just talking. It's coming back to your question, people are talking about stuff, but they're not doing lots of stuff.
Well, that fits nicely into sort of the next question we ask is, how do you see and you talked about it in some ways already, the green transition continuing to impact, your sector and the sector? Do you think that collaboration may be taking away people's pride, ego, and politics, because you get all those things in business, to collaborate more and share more?
I don't necessarily think that's about the pride and ego. I think it is more about control and the fear of losing control. So for example, 3PLs, the logistics businesses, the carriers, they compete very fiercely with each other. So giving your competitor your load data, so you collaboratively will leverage your own logistics, your own transport network to increase everybody's utilization. It's a dangerous game, and there has been propositions from some bigger 3PLs, but the other 3PLs have said no, I'm not going to play that. That was one of the story with trade lanes. I think was that was recently shut down. There's a tracking and the tracking system, the blockchain based tracking system that was designed by Maersk, based on IBM platform. Other shippers, so other carriers, were not very keen to share their data with Maersk, because then Maersk can potentially leverage the data for the benefit of their own kind of the business growth and client acquisition and so forth. And the same thing goes with the vendors. I mean, Coca-Cola is not going to be happy to sharing data with Pepsi in terms of what they ship, when they ship, how much they ship, and so forth. That's where there is resistance around that. Or imagine that Tesco will allow to have Sainsbury's cages on this into the same truck that supply the next door store on a high street. Again, that is it's the business risk, I think, an aversion more than anything else, is loss of control. So I know what I'm doing and I'm doing the best as I can, but they are restricted by the perimeter of their business. So what we are gradually trying to get into is try to help them to collaborate, because that is, I think, is the next frontier of how the efficiency can be gained, especially when you're getting into it's not just the sustainability for the environmental kind of the emissions side of things, is also congestion. I mean, urban areas are massively congested, and I'm looking at my high streets that very often I see the back of a truck that is open, that is offloading products into a corner shop. I mean, it's 90% empty. It's air. And it's a lot of them like this. It's because everybody's doing their own thing. They're doing it as best as they can, but they're not talking to the guy next door.
Okay, no, that's very
and we end up waiting for an hour on, I don't know, school run in the morning, just because there are a couple of trucks on the road are offloading. And that is also the councils. And so I've spoken with a few councils, and they say, well, the curb management and that kind of congestion management, that becomes also one of the issues. So it's a social impact. It's not just environmental one.
No, thank you. I really appreciate that. The next question I also want is, what development in the sector, everything in the logistics sector widely, has surprised you most in your career so far?
How conservative the supply chain and logistics, not companies, players, I'll say professionals, both the people as well as the organizations are. At the earliest, my early careers, I thought it's the finance people that are the most conservative. Then I've changed my mind. Then I realized actually probably it is IT people that are most conservative. Just don't touch it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But now I believe it's the supply chain. I think probably one of the most conservative function in the business. Because I mean, it's also understandable. We can talk about, I don't know, percentage of savings here, percentage of savings there. But if the load of products is not delivered to a retailer and it's not on the shelf, then you're losing the entire sales. And we know that people are dropping entire baskets in retail if the stuff that they came here into a store for, it's not on shelf. They're not buying half the basket. They drop the entire basket and they go to the store next door because they came in for a particular flavor of a drink that they were after. So the product availability, which is impacted by, I don't know, poor forecasting and delayed in deliveries and so on and so on, and that creates an issue. So I think no surprise that that logistics sector is very conservative, in a sense that, okay, it works. I make it work. I made it work for the past decade. I do these things. This is my routine. I don't want to change it because of the fear of it might not work. Sometimes, or far too often, I think it's overwhelmed, or people are spending quite a bit of money on trying to run. When businesses can afford, they can do kind of, okay, I'll parallel run this and I parallel run that, and then it will allow me to transition from one model or to the other. But logistics operators themselves, they work on a very thin margin, so they cannot afford. The price of failure is far too expensive.
Yeah, you're absolutely
until
right.
they've really pushed up to the wall into having to change because they're losing business, for example, because they don't have capabilities of such and such.
No, that's fantastic. And the final question that I'm asking everyone that often makes us laugh, and sometimes we can't always say what we really passionately feel. If you could speak to the Prime Minister rather than the current one, if you could speak to the Prime Minister, what would you ask them to do to help your business grow and flourish?
Well, my business in particular, it obviously depends on the health of the whole sector. So I'll probably kind of speak on behalf of the sector if I'm given such an opportunity. And I think I did. Well, we did touch upon the sector, especially the logistics players are working on a very razor thin margins, and unfortunately, there's a knock-on effect. They do not have enough capacity to innovate and invest in sometimes speculatively, but sometimes kind of aggressively in infrastructure, IT setup, automation, even just, I don't know, electric trucks are very expensive. So only the massive businesses like Amazon can invest into fleets of electric vans for urban deliveries. And Amazon has lots of other revenue streams, all the way to the movies and the retail platform. But just a traditional, I don't know, mom and pop SME type carrier with 15 trucks, they cannot have mega sophisticated systems. They cannot afford this. And my point to Prime Minister is going to be, well, how can you make the life of the industry a bit easier? Well, the national insurance just went up. The rates people have, it's going up, or it is high. That unfortunately does not promote investments, does not promote innovation. Yes, there are some private equity kind of or private money come in and invest, for example, into building new warehousing capacities and so forth. But they need to be kitted out. They need to be, the organizations needs to be built and so forth. So the bankruptcy rates are also an indicator of how tough it is out there for the industries. And then we know when the economy will pick up, then it will be again a boom, and the prices will start going up, but the businesses the logistics businesses will have difficulty then keeping up with the surge of demand, as we saw during COVID, and all those demands for PPEs or the home deliveries. So that, I would say, just make the people's life easier, and they will do the rest.
Okay, that's wonderful, and I'm sure a lot of viewers and listeners will agree with that, as do I. And I just want to say thank you so much for your time, Michael. Really appreciate you telling us all about FLOX and what you're doing, and just say thanks for your time again.